Hi everyone, and welcome back to The Great Cosmic Mother, the Machine. And this is part 2, and I think some of the most beautiful and distilled pieces of the text, The Great Cosmic Mother, is really in these pages. So it's an absolute honor to be reading this piece. What is the machine? The machine has been called man's baby, sometimes man's true lover. It is also patriarchal man's version of the world mother. The machine isn't man's transformation ritual, his magic uterus of mass production. The machine is a man-made system, device, or theology, philosophy for converting world energy, animal, vegetable, mineral, into human wealth. Under 4,000 years of patriarchal religious economic systems, human wealth has meant the conversion of the energy of the many into profit and power for the few. The primary mechanism of this energy conversion has been the control and exploitation of the female reproductive process, simultaneous with the repression and punishment of female sexual autonomy. Through the energy suppression and conversion mechanism of piety and drudgery, female sexual biological energy has been maintained and controlled in a chronic process of productive repression. And this machine model for controlling and using female sexual reproductive energy has also been applied to the control and exploitation of workers' productive labor. The machine, a patriarchal hierarchic system for exploiting and diverting female sexual reproductive energy into wealth and profit, is now used, of course, to exploit and co-opt the energies of most of the world's males also. The machine converts kangaroos and whales into dog food, ancient forests into toothpicks, and the oily black blood and metallic veins of Earth into nuclear missiles, beer cans, and smog. The history of humankind from Neanderthals to now has been a slow but logarithmically increasing, spatially and temporally, development of the organic into the mechanical, of primally simple into artificially complex. In Paul Virilio's terms, it has been a development from the gradual speed of geophysical space to the instantaneous space of electronic time. In psychoanalytical terms, it has been the history of the implacable oncoming of the metristic oral by the patristic anal. In the past 4,000 years, that has been accomplished via the total physical and ideological repression of the female body. The next stage depends on the total physical and economic machination of the female body. The global assembly line turning out consumer junk and human customers and human replacing robots will be the great machine mother of the world, with the eggs, uteruses, and hormone systems of living women attached to it, one way or another, in servo-mechanistic functions. The current rage for female bodies trussed up in chains, discipline frames, and even rubber and metal garter belts turns some people on specifically because it mechanizes female flesh. The media mechanizes female flesh by making it available directly to the brain via disembodied light technology. A good deal of contemporary pornography has to do not with the eroticization of the flesh, but with the eroticization of the mechanization of the flesh. She wears all of the metallic jewelry of torture. Increasing numbers of men in the world today are turned on solely or primarily by torture's metalloid mechanistic thrills. The triumph of anal sadistic necrophilic machine equals the total mechanization of the female body. She is screwed by the machine, and she reproduces mechanically. Patriarchal man has undoubtedly lusted after women in his heart as a sexual body. Even more, he's lusted after motherhood. The control of female sex and reproduction through his jealous father gods and misogynistic priesthoods has been his mode of experiencing motherhood. He has owned the female reproductive machinery like the factory owner owns productive machinery, and like the pastoralist owns cows. In modern reproductive technologies, the same lust is evident. To know the secret mechanisms of reproduction is to own the secret of life. Patriarchal technological man has spent many centuries spying to capture the secret, as we well know. What the boss does with the factory machinery, the biotechnologist can now do in the laboratory, control and program the mechanical process of reproduction production, i.e., he too can be a mother if motherhood is defined as mechanical breeding. Early results of this machinery can be seen in fertility drugs, which tend to mass produce sextuplets and septuplets. For life, if approached mechanistically, is certainly capable of mechanistic response. In particular, since mechanical replication is one part of the life process, it is precisely this replicative assembly line aspect of the life process that we keep soliciting with our technologies and with our technologically oriented ideologies. The more we relate to life as mechanisms to a cosmic machine, rather than as organisms to a cosmic organism, the more fiendishly mechanoid will be its response. The DNA will roll out like Fords and Subarus, and we will all be made by God and global corporations as production units with interchangeable parts. By God, i.e., this will seem normative in a mechanically self-justifying system. Everyone is caught in this machinery. There is nowhere to go to escape it except inward, to a definition of life as conscious organism and stupid mechanism. This is the only way we can stop life from becoming nothing but stupid mechanism. The process of redefinition begins with the women reclaiming total sexual and reproductive autonomy. For if the female body can be controlled or used in any way from the outside via exploitive definitions or systems, then so it follows can everything else. The definition and use of the female body is the paradigm for the definition and use of all things. If the autonomy of the female body is defined as sacred, then so will be the autonomy of all things. Patriarchal men have tried to pretend that males can be free, while females can be dominated and enslaved, just as white imperialists have pretended that they can be independent and soulful beings in private life, while publicly colonizing and brutalizing darker peoples. Now we see that everyone can be involved in a dominating machine, is dominated by and mechanized by it. Now we can also see that after 4,000 years of systematic physical and ideological domination of the female sexual and reproductive processes by men, there is no free man left on earth. If the source of life is defined not as conscious, autonomous organism, but as stupid, unusable machine, then everybody gets caught in this definitive machinery, the definers as well as the defined. Biological beings are not the same as machinery. 4,000 years ago, patriarchal religion and culture began forcibly defining biological beings and primarily the female being in mechanistic, exploitable terms. Since then, because behavior follows definition, the human world has undergone logarithmically accelerating processes of mechanization. Patriarchal religion emptied biology of spirit and consciousness through its machine dualisms of fleshly body versus divine mind, of material evil versus abstract goodness, in the way in which it destroyed the Neolithic goddess religion and enslaved female beings. Patriarchal science followed with its eventually Cartesian definitions of a total mechanoid deadness of matter being acted upon, objectively observed, manipulated by the detached male mind. Even though modern physics and biologies have once again redefined life as a magically organic process arranged and rearrangeable by subjective perception, our world religions, laws, social structures, and customs continue to follow the now obsolete patriarchal definition of life as stupid mechanism. So we have forgotten, or have not yet been allowed to remember, that biological beings are not analogous to machinery. In the continuous spiraling of evolution, de-evolution, biology is a spiritual process, and spirit is a biological process. Spiritual energy fuels our biological organisms, and biological energy fuels our spiritual experiences. Biology and spirituality, sexuality and spirituality cannot be separated without destroying the living holism and producing dead mechanism. Robot sex, robot piety, robot labor, robot existence. To reclaim the biological process as a numinous process is to reclaim the original process of the earth, which is geological, biological, spiritual being, capable of consciousness and of conscious relationship to its creatures. The magic is in the molecules, the dance of energy. Solid rock and human flesh are in the imagination of Earth. Women originally knew this, as did men, through tens of thousands of years of biological spiritual experience on Earth as reciprocal mother. Spirit and sex were not separate, dualized, or antagonistic, but experienced as twin serpents of energy flows, interlocked and spiraling around each other. When women knew this, men knew it too. It was experienced as the ontological reality. Earth and life haven't changed. Our definitions of reality have been changed, allowing us to perceive and experience only the most mechanistic aspects of the life process. The deep structure of the imagination remains the same, and we experience biology and spirit as unified. This is where we are in dreams, with natural hallucinations like peyote and mushrooms, and in art sometimes. Religious ritual was once a major mode of experiencing direct communication between the sexual, spiritual imaginations of human creatures and the evolutionarily numinous imagination of Earth. Patriarchal religion turned this open channel into a blocked road with its substitution of moralistic necrophilious ritual for the ancient pagan rituals of biological epiphany. Now is the time to return. If we can't unblock the road with the dynamite of revolutionary consciousness, then we must build a new way back with the slower, steadier energy of the consciousness and evolution. Because patriarchy began by taking possession of the female body as property and as stupid machinery, the way back begins with women reclaiming full sexual and reproductive autonomy, not in pursuit of cheap thrills or of equality within the present system, which is a dead system, but in pursuit of the original holism of biological spiritual beings, evolving sexually numinous beings who cannot experience themselves ontologically if they are habitually being defined and self-defined as mechanisms or as moralistic property. This means that the question of whether to be pregnant or not pregnant must be returned to the female intuition, which, when it's healthy, strong, self-defined, is the voice of the sexual spiritual energies interlocked and working, muscularly flowing together. A pregnant woman or a woman deciding on pregnancy or non-pregnancy is not a situation that is the same as any other situation. Neither male logic nor male theology apply to female reproduction, to pregnancy or to conception or to abortion, because male logic and male theology derive from beings who never became pregnant, use contraception, give birth, or have abortions. In relation to female sex and reproduction, male logic and male theology are spectator sports. But pregnancy, childbirth, and even abortion are participation rituals. Nor does man's busyness apply. Females' bodies are not man's business. A woman is a specialist in her own situation. In a world that worships specialists, how strange that men refuse to recognize women as specialists in our own bodies and processes and allow us to function accordingly. The fundamentalist preachers and Catholic priests and the other holy men who want to forbid women contraception and abortion, and the technological humanist fertility control experts trying to force contraception, abortion, and sterilization on third world women are the same mentality and are doing the same number on women, trying to take over the female functions of organic reproduction, organic birth control, organic population limitation, and run these according to the amateurish notions of male logic and male theology. Overpopulation is a code word, a symptom word for the failure of all male-dominated systems designed to control and exploit the female process for God and profit. Women decide to be pregnant or not, period. That is the beginning and the end of population control. In the abortion debates, one of the questions most frequently raised is, when does life begin? The question is quasi-mechanistic, suggesting some ideal point on a linear scale before which abortion is right and after which abortion is not right. A popular placard and slogan carried by the anti-abortionists in demonstrations and rallies illustrates the same mentality. A photo of a bouncing, beautiful baby is shown with the words, "If you take her life now, it's murder. If you take her life 12 months ago, it's abortion." The problem with this reasoning is this: life does not begin. It is always here. Nature is alive from the beginning. Life does not emerge from us. We emerge from it. Pregnancy and childbirth are ritual passages of eternal life through the bodies of autonomous women. From the first cell floating in the first sea, at the first outbreath of the world, it has all been alive. Life does not begin with the fertilized egg or embryo. Male sperm is alive. The female ovum is alive. Technically, as we've said, the female egg could mate with its own polar body and produce a daughter clone all by itself. Yet, each month of her life, if a woman does not become pregnant, one of these incredible eggs goes down the drain, taking with it all potential life. With each human male ejaculation, about 2 million sperm are wasted, condemned to not become, for each single sperm that enters an egg and begins with the egg to form an embryo, 1,999,999 of its fellow sperm do not. Nature is extremely alive, extremely prodigal, and continuous waste and death occurs within a continuous sea of life. And that continuity is both a cycle and a continuum. Thus, the question, when does life begin, is asked along and of that continuum. A 3-month fetus, if not aborted, will indeed grow into a bouncing baby. But if the continuum is reversed and followed backward, when does that life begin? A 3-month fetus projected back 3.5 months along the continuum separates into a female egg and a male sperm, alive within 2 distinct bodies of a woman and a man. Most women, especially beginning a menstrual period, have had this experience of wondering deeply, sometimes with overwhelming tears, just what that tiny egg might have become. Life's potential is even more so. The female egg was once itself enclosed within an embryo, and before that was a potential egg with another egg, on, back through the apes, forest shrews, lizards, star acorns, algae, and the first molecule, back to the first imagination of a sea of night filled with nothing. Where does life begin? This is not an argument intended to prove that abortion is right or wrong. It's just to say that life happens always along a continuum. And all the decisions we make are always decisions made along a continuum. Any fixed points, any fixed point designated along the continuum is always understood to be arbitrary. That is the best we mortals can do if we are utterly honest with ourselves and with life. In the abortion debate, the earnest search for that point when life begins is understandable, but futile. There will never be any final determination of the question, because the closer we look, the clearer we see that life does not begin. On Earth, it recedes to the origins of the Earth, and beyond that, to the origins of the universe. And certainly with the elaboration and refinement of reproductive technology, the age in months and weeks and days at which a fetus will be able to survive outside the mother's womb will also recede backward along the continuum to a point where the entire question of beginning of life becomes as technologically inappropriate as is now biologically inappropriate. This fixation on a logically, empirically determinable point in space or number of days at which life can be said to begin is another symptom of cultural ideological fixation on mechanical quantity rather than organic quality. It also derives from the patriarchal pastoralist notion that life is not divine until male sperm enters the female womb, which from that point on is a passive container in which God's child grows. In the view of others, God is a woman, and the child is not property of embodied spirit. The continuum is also a cycle, spiraling out and in, and what has come once when the time is wrong can come once again when the time is right. The point is that the entire question The point is that the entire question and answer changes with the change of the sex of God or with the change of a straight line into a spiral. The opposite of life is not death, but to become a mechanism. Women forced against their wills or instincts to give birth like breeding machines in the name of the sacred fetus is a travesty of life. Sacred beings do not pass through breeding machines, nor through women tied down by the ropes of God and required to give birth to male property or to multiply congregations. If the mother is not a sacred autonomous being, then the fetus is neither sacred nor autonomous. If the mother is sacred, if the mother is a sacred autonomous being, then she makes her own choices about what she brings or does not bring to birth. Sacred, holy life is not born from machinery. In a lovely book, Hygia, A Woman's Herbal, author Janine Parvati records the abortion experiences of several women in the form of journal extracts, poems, and letters. Few abortion experiences are shallow, whatever the method used. They are normally overwhelming psychological and spiritual experiences, even when the physical trauma seems minimal. Perhaps all anti-abortionists see women as stupid cows or callow whores from whom the fetus must be rescued. But most women who've undergone abortion know that the experience is indeed a participation ritual in which a woman participates heavily and unforgettably in her own death, as well as in the death of a potential child. Few women emerge unchanged from the abortion experience, and the change is usually in the direction of greater thoughtfulness, deeper maturity, a need and desire to listen more profoundly and gaze more intensely into the womb of one's inner experience, the bubbling crucible of life and death. Women who have not had abortions and or do not approve of abortion can only be asked to consider cultivating an ontological trust of their sisters who do undergo abortion. We must begin believing or rebelieving that the female being is of its original nature knows what it has to do and what must be done and why. If we reclaim this trust in ourselves and in other women, we are reclaiming female autonomy, and this reclamation can help create a world in which much of the pain and ugliness of abortion no longer exists. This will be a world in which females are so ontologically in touch with their bodies, so tuned in with their cycles and hormonal activity, that the processes which Janine Parvati records and describes as psychic birth control and even psychic abortion can not only occur, but will predominate. Women describe experiences of being pregnant, of knowing and feeling and believing that it was not the right time or circumstance to have a child. They speak of going into meditation or into their dreams, or speaking to the fetus as one sacred being to another. This is not the right time or space for us to be together. Please leave now. At the right time, we will meet again. These women practiced imagining either or actual abortion, or simply imagining the embryonic blood clot breaking loose from the uterine wall and flowing downward with the blood flow. In the cases described, at least, miscarriage followed. It cannot always happen, but it is a beginning. The further along the pregnancy is, the harder it becomes, and the more traumatic the miscarriage. So it is very important for women to also practice meditation and dream conversion with our entire menstrual cycles and hormonal conditions, along with, of course, many other methods of organic contraception, herbs, temperature readings, and all the rest. A woman can know she is pregnant, though correctly reading her own dreams, several weeks before she becomes aware of physical symptoms. Of course, the fundamentalist types might want to try to burn us for psychic abortions, for having conversations with our own dreams. They've done it before. And the logical technological types will scoff and insist it can't be done. There's no objective proof. It's all subjective nonsense, and so on, the way it goes. But each time a human female simply tries it and find it works, the community of female re-empowerment grows stronger. The time of female re-empowerment grows closer. We will not be empowered by any way of political, economic, or social system built on the fact of our weakness, this is certain. And all present political, economic, social, and religious systems on earth are built solidly on the fact of female weakness. Living within these systems with no way out, we instead turn in and find a radically different world system inside, awaiting revolution. This is what a co-revolution, a turning inside out. Female autonomy always means human autonomy, just as patriarchal domination of female reproductive labor always means patriarchal domination of human productive labor. Organism means organism, as machine means machine. We either become children of the Great Mother, or we remain children of the machine. The opposite of life is not death, but to become a mechanism. We are already quasi-mechanisms living within a world machine. We must extricate ourselves from the machinery, which is not truly either life or death, but the absence and the travesty of both. Politics is important. Social and cultural activity is important. Everything that can be done should be done to change our situation. But these activities cannot extricate us from the machinery if they are still conducted in the terms of the machinery. Ontological evolution and revolution must be conducted in the mode of biology and the dream. This is the mode onto which machinery cannot enter. Only living beings can.